Hey guys, this is Miss Tart. This week we're going to be working with theme, working with fiction. Theme's probably something that you've heard a lot about before, but really in 5th grade we're going to be diving deep and thinking about it a lot more critically. So theme is what the story is wanting you to know. It's the lesson, it's the message that they want you to learn from it. Now, theme is referring to, again, fiction. So fiction, you're talking about what the author, what life lesson they're wanting you to learn. So, kind of like we did with main idea, there are some general topics of theme, like compassion, or courage, or perseverance, friendship, honesty, cooperation. So you have those theme topics. That's kind of like the overall big idea that they want you to know about. So some examples of themes, though, might be always be yourself, or laziness can have negative consequences. In order to have friends, you must be a friend. And so you see how these theme topics relate to then the actual theme itself. So a theme topic is just one overall word, one overall big idea. So friendship, well, there could be lots of lessons about friendship, what it means to be a good friend, or always be there for your friend. Kind of like down here, it says in order to have friends, you must be a friend. Well, what about perseverance? There's a lot of different things that you could have a lesson on perseverance. One of those might be work hard and always do your best. A theme topic might be honesty, and then the theme would be honest and always tell the truth. So you have these overall topics, these big ideas, and then your theme kind of elaborates and goes more deeply into that. So to find it, you have to think, what is the character overcoming? What is the problem, and how did they overcome that problem, and what did they learn from it? How did the character grow or change? And then you've got to find the evidence. How do you know that that's the theme? How do you know? Well, you know that because here's the problem, here's the solution, and here's what they learned from it. So we've got these big ideas like friendship and honesty and perseverance. These, though, are some more in-depth themes that come from those big idea topics, like be grateful for what you have, be careful for what you wish for, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, learn from our mistakes, appreciate what you have. So I'm giving you this because this is a huge long list of themes that typically books can have. Now, this isn't the only theme that a book can have, but these are a lot of examples. So if you want to pause this video and read over them, please feel free to. Alright, so next we're going to practice with that. We're going to be reading this passage together, and we're going to be determining what big idea they want us to learn from it, and then elaborate that into the theme. Max and Kai were the best of friends. They spent many hours together after school and on the weekends. One of their favorite activities was to play basketball together. Kai had the perfect hoop outside of his house on the driveway, so they spent much of their time shooting hoops at Kai's house. "Where's the basketball?" Max asked one day when he went over to Kai's house. "There are 2 basketballs in the garage. Let's go," replied Kai. The boys organized a competition. Whoever could make the most baskets out of 10 shots won a round. They used paper to keep track of who won each round and decided that the ultimate loser would have to write a love note to Claire, the cutest girl in 5th grade. After they played 6 rounds and were tied in the competition, Kai's mom called them in for dinner. Frustrated that they couldn't continue playing, Kai hurled the ball down the street. It traveled in the gutter over a block away down a steep hill. "I'll get it later," shouted Kai as he threw his arm up in the air. After dinner, they grabbed the other ball from the garage and continued the competition. They played a few more rounds, knowing that the winner would be determined at the end of their playtime. When Max's moms arrived to pick them up, they were still tied and agreed that they would finish later. They waved goodbye and left the ball on the front yard. Giggling as they gazed at Claire the next day in class, Max and Kai agreed that they would continue their competition to determine the winner. "I can't wait to see what your love letter says," Kai taunted Max. "She's going to fall in love with you after she reads your letter," Max laughed. When they got to Kai's house and started looking for the ball, they couldn't find one. "What happened to the balls?" Max inquired. "We left one on the front lawn, but I don't see it now," replied Kai. They took a walk down the street to find the ball that had rolled down the street. There was no ball in sight. How did we lose 2 balls? Kai said, shaking his head. The boys went inside the house to ask Kai's mom if she could go and buy a new ball for them to use. What happened to the balls in the garage? She asked. Well, I think they got lost or stolen or something, Kai mumbled. If I had any money, you could buy another basketball, Mom replied, but I won't be buying a basket for you. How can we make some money? They asked. Max and Kai spent the next 2 hours raking the lawn and pulling weeds. When it was time for Max to leave, they had earned $8 of the 24 they needed to buy a new basketball. Instead of playing ball for the next week, they worked in the yard and did chores around the house until they earned enough money to purchase a new ball. So, how can we determine the theme of that passage? So, first of all, we want to think, what is the overall big idea? Challenges, kindness, responsibility, hope, acceptance, beauty. There's tons of different ones. Love, perseverance. Well, it definitely did talk about love some with wanting to write a love note to Claire. And it definitely did talk about teamwork and fairness and playing the game. But the overall big idea that they wanted you to learn from this was responsibility. Responsibility. The boys had to have responsibility to not lose their ball and so that they could continue playing instead of having to buy a new one. So evidence from that. How do we know that this is about responsibility? Well, one piece of evidence is they lost 1 ball going down the street. Another piece of evidence that they learned to be responsible is that the other ball they left out in the front yard. They weren't really taking care of it. So they lost 1 ball going down the street. They lost another ball by leaving it in the yard. And then what else? What happened as an effect from that? Well, the effect was, instead of getting to play, they had to spend all their time working to earn some money to buy their own ball. So that last piece of evidence was they couldn't play. They couldn't play because they lost the balls. So what does that teach us about responsibility? Overall, what does that teach us about responsibility? Well, we could say that the theme of this story is, and take a second to think to yourself, what would you say the theme about responsibility would be? I would say that the theme of this story would be that you have to be responsible and take care of the things that you have. So again, when we're trying to find the theme, we want to think about the overall big theme, the big idea that they're wanting you to know. And then we can use evidence to come up with a more in-depth message that could apply to everyone. So this message of it being important to be responsible and take care of the things you have, not only does that apply to Max and Kai, that applies to everyone. That's what the theme is about. My daughter Harper, when she gets a little bit older, she's going to have to learn if she wants to have an iPad or something like that. She's going to have to be responsible and take care of it if she wants to keep it. So this is how we think about theme. We think about that overall big idea. We elaborate into it into something that could be applied as a life lesson to anyone. Thanks for listening, guys, and we're going to be working on this throughout the week. Feel free to refer back to this video if you need a refresher.